What's up guys, Luke here with SubaruONLY. You're watching a SubaruONLY show. And today I'm taking a look at this Forester. I got the stock hood scoop splitter off right now. I'll show you that's on the bench because I have this 2016-2017 STI intercooler right here. It's a lot bigger than the stock intercooler that came on this 04 Forester XT. So I have a larger intercooler, and now the intercooler hood scoop splitter that goes underneath the hood no longer fits this sucker. The hood scoop splitter basically cuts off right here, and if you can see that, cuts off right here, and then I'd say it pretty much cuts off like right in the back right here. So this side is the same, and the front is the same as my small little intercooler, but this larger one extends over here and extends in the back. So basically that channel that diverts the air into the intercooler no longer fits this intercooler, and it's not going to maximize the size of this intercooler. So I'm going to modify that splitter so that I can pass air through the entire surface area of this new intercooler. So that's the plan. Okay, so here's that splitter that bolts onto the underside of the hood. There's actually a little bit of foam, a little foam strip right here that seals up to the hood. And I'll show you kind of how this goes. So basically this splitter bolts up to the hood like that. And I unbolted it, and I'm gonna have to widen it. So basically, this side needs to get extended, and the intercooler, the back half, needs to be extended. Now you can't really change the mounting holes, so you're gonna have to do all your modifications underneath, right? So basically, this side needs to come down a little bit, all along this whole length, and this side needs to extend out a few inches. And actually, the perimeter of this splitter and my hood scoop on this Forester is about the perfect size for this larger aftermarket intercooler. So that's gonna be the first step. Basically evaluate how I'm gonna extend this out this way and extend this whole plane down so I can cover the whole intercooler with this splitter. So to be honest, I'm not really sure how to do this. I'm just gonna dive in and figure it out. I looked online to see how people are doing DIY splitter modifications, and there's a lot of pretty cool ways. People shared some really awesome ways, but for me, I'm just gonna kind of make it up as I go, document it for this video, and share it with you guys, and we'll see how it ends up. Okay, kind of mock fitting this sucker here. As you can see, this side, on the driver's side, is pretty much lined up fine. The front is lined up fine. This side, as you can see the intercooler underneath it, needs to extend out a little bit, and the back isn't covering the intercooler all the way. So basically, if I lift this up, you can see how much of the intercooler is being covered. So I'm gonna have to extend that back plane too. Okay, so how are we gonna do this? Basically, this is the way it would be oriented on the car. I need to modify this back panel so it goes further into the intercooler, and I need to modify this side. So if I flip this over, I think I'm gonna make a cut right here all the way down, and a cut right here all the way down, and then take this plate and bend it down a little bit, and then see if I can support it somehow with maybe a support bracket right here, and then a support bracket right here, and that plate will bend down, and maybe even put a lip on it so it kind of bends down and then angles towards the intercooler more. But basically, this whole gap area right here, I need to have air being diverted into the intercooler from this whole main area. So I need to get rid of move this plate down. All right, here's the new shroud. You can now see it covers the entire intercooler. So it actually diverts it to the back. Diverts it straight down, right along the channel. It's basically a perfect fit. I'll show you what I did. But basically, this is upside down. So you can see, I basically cut it right here and bent it down. And then I cut out the section that went right here and extended it, moved it over. And then created two plates. Tie these plates in. And what you have is something that looks like this from the sides, but it fits perfect on the intercooler. Alright, this air splitter is looking pretty sweet. I've actually ground down all the screws, and I've painted it with a clean coat of trim paint, satin black trim paint. So take a closer look at what it's looking like. You can kind of see what we did here. I cut and bent that rear plate to extend to cover the entire intercooler, and I used sheet metal screws And on the sheet metal screws on the inside, I ground them all down. So that's what all the sheet metal screws look like on the inside. Totally ground down. They still hold the screw. You can see the little triangle wedge of sheet metal I made to fit right in there to help channelize the air or divert the air. And then on this side, this is where I actually cut that whole piece and moved it over, right? So I have a whole new panel right here. And if I can get in over here, a new panel on this side, because the original one was over here. So you can see I use all these sheet metal screws, and I've painted it all black with that trim paint, the satin black trim paint. And on the inside, I've ground down all the tips of the screws so that they don't obstruct the flow of air. Same thing over here. You can see a bunch of like screws that were ground down. And that's because on this side, there's a ton of these little sheet metal screws that I used to attach the sucker, and there's that little pie-shaped wedge. So that's the general process. These sheet metal screws are really cheap. Here's what they look like basically. Let's see. Right here. So you get a box of these suckers. Basically you want to get the thinnest diameter, but the ones that still have really wide threads, which would be for sheet metal. And they have a self-tapping tip on them, and you put it right in your drill bit tip. You get like a tip that just fits right in, and basically these things will drill and pop a hole in like 3 seconds. And then once you have a bunch of them in, you can grind off these tips with a little Dremel tool, like with a cutoff wheel on the tip. Alright, here are the sheet metal screws I got. Basically number 6 by 1/2 inch, really short. They work perfect, easy to cut off the tips once you get them installed. That way, you know, the tip isn't blocking the airflow. If you don't have a welder, these are really quick, easy fix to get these sheet metal panels put together and get something that will work. So take a look at these. These work. Self-drilling screws. The next step is going to be to get the rubber seal. That's this over here. This rubber seal. And basically, that rubber seal comes down another 1 5/8", I believe. I think that was what my measurement was. So I'm going to have to go find something from the hardware store that allows me to extend all the way around, because this sucker is no longer long enough because I extended it, right, because of these 2 sections. So I'm going to either use that one in conjunction with an additional one that I find at Orchard or Home Depot, or I'm just going to use a whole new one that comes down the necessary 1 5/8" all the way around the perimeter of this sucker, because that's what seals this air channel diverter with the intercooler. You know, this thing doesn't actually come down and touch the intercooler. When the hood comes down, this thing is still about 1 5/8" away from that intercooler. So you need to have a rubber gasket that goes all the way around the perimeter to seal the sucker. So that's the last step, and then I'll bolt it all up, and we should be good to go. Alright, this is what I found for that seal. Garage door seal. It's 2.5 inches tall by 18 feet long. And I'll open this sucker up and show you guys a little bit closer, but I think this is going to work perfect. It's got the perfect shape to seal on the intercooler. So let's open this sucker up and take a closer look at it. Alright, here's that stuff out of the package. Basically, as you can see, I'll take this rubber band off. As you can see, it's about 2 inches tall. I got an 18-foot section. I'll trim this and install this around that new air diverter, and I think this will seal up perfectly. The reason I think it's going to seal up perfectly is because of this profile that it has. If you look on the profile side, it's actually got a little T right there and a little T right there. And maybe I'll cut one of them off on the top, but the lower T is what's going to seal on that intercooler face, the top of that intercooler face. And that's going to be perfect for a nice tight seal. So basically I just need to make sure that this seal hangs down about the exact same depth. Okay, so here's my diverter plate, right? And this new rubber seal is going to be mounting on the bottom. And I know from measuring the factory seal that the factory seal hangs down about 1 5/8" from this lower face of my new hood scoop air diverter. And that should be pretty close to a perfect fit as far as how far down it needs to seal. So let's go ahead and set it up and see if it works. Cool. Alright, here's the finished product. This dang hood scoop air channel thing. It's been a heck of a job. Ended up adding another section. I actually ended up adding a whole new panel right here to bend it up so I've got a completely square fit on that intercooler. This is like the thing is upside down. And look at the mess I got right now, because I ended up going ahead and then wrapping it in some insulation tape. It's got adhesive backed I think it's DiY product. That's basically this like wrap. So I'll wrap that around it, and I'll install this sucker and we'll see how it goes. So that's basically a finished product, and we'll see what it looks like on the car. Alright, and this is a finished product. Here's that hood scoop air channel reinstalled in the hood. It's looking pretty good. You can kind of see here, this is where the original one cut off and I extended it out. And then the original one also like bent up right here, and I bent it down and then created another channel right here to bring it back out. So it's a smooth, square fit with intercooler. See if you can see from this profile a little better. And I got those garage door seals installed. It's a little bit wonky on that bottom, but it's a pretty nice fit on the back. And then I have the insulation wrap also going around it on the outside. Okay, now I realize this thing is super ghetto. This is probably one of the most ghetto suckers I've done on any of my cars in recent years. But I'll be honest, the reason I'm doing this is because it's free. I only had a couple days before I had to take this car to the tuner, and I'm probably going to replace this hood scoop with a JDM STI hood scoop, which will be bigger. And at that time, I'll probably invest in a Grimspeed air intake or air channel diverter that bolts up to that JDM STI hood scoop. So I didn't want to spend any money on this sucker right now because it might get replaced. I wanted to come up with something over the weekend, virtually free, with just like parts I had laying around the shop, and that's the solution. And I think it's going to work pretty good. I'll close the hood and see if you guys can see on the video how tight a fit it is. I'll get a light in there and see if we can really see how tight a fit it is. That way you guys can see too how functional it'll be. So to test fit this sucker, you want to be looking through this hood scoop with the hood completely closed. And you can peer into that hood scoop and you can see the two corners. You can see the back corner, left side, and the right side, and basically get a good idea if that modified seal is making a complete flush fit. That way, all the fresh air coming in through your hood scoop is going into that intercooler and passing down by that turbo out underneath your car, pulling all the hot air out underneath the car. Right here, I'm looking through the hood scoop using a light. Alright, here's the passenger side. The right side, you can see there's a teeny little gap right there. It's really hard to see with this sucker. I hope you guys can see it. The light's flashing right in. So there's the back of the intercooler. And you can see the channel is just hanging over a little bit right there. It's just a millimeter over, and that's fine. There's a lot of insulation over the outside of that rubber, so that will keep it perfect. And as we work our way down here, and you can see on this side, channel comes right to the side of the intercooler, and it looks like I'm covering the intercooler, but actually that's the back of the intercooler right there. It's hard to see on camera, but it's coming down right on top, not touching the fins, right against the back of the intercooler. So the back is a perfect fit. And it's really hard to see, but it's coming right against the back of that intercooler. Maybe you can see from this angle. There you go. You can see that's the back of the intercooler right in there. Alright guys, that's about it. I'm going to wrap this video up. It's hot. I'm sweaty. I'm exhausted. It's the end of the weekend. This thing's going to the tuner in a couple days. I'm pretty stoked. I think it's ready to go. So we'll see what Snail Performance says. I'm going to make a video on the day I take this to the tuner, so I'll check you guys next time on that video. Later.